Why did Donald Trump win? Because sexism, right? Right? Right?
Laugh, Hank. Oh, that's me too. And laugh, Hank. Come on. Don't overdo it.
So an interesting story happened here the other day at NYU. I'm going to read to you a little bit, and then I'm going to show you a couple of clips. After watching the second televised debate between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton in October 2016, a battle between the first female candidate nominated by a major party and an opponent who had just been caught on tape bragging about sexually assaulting women,
Grab him by the pussy.
Maria Guadalupe, an associate professor of economics and political science at INSEAD, had an idea. Millions had tuned in to watch a man face off against a woman for the first set of co-ed presidential debates in American history. But how would their perceptions change, she wondered, if the genders of the candidates were switched? She pictured an actress playing Trump, replicating his words, gestures, body language, and tone verbatim, while an actor took on Clinton's role the same way. What would the experiment reveal about male and female communication styles and the differing standards by which we unconsciously judge them? So if the woman is communicating exactly like Trump did, and the man is communicating exactly like Hillary did, well, if the man wins, then it would be sexism, right? Well, what if the man loses? Obviously, they didn't consider this. So they did the debate. Salvador says he and Guadalupe began the project assuming the gender inversion would confirm what each suspected watching the real-life debates, that Trump's aggression, his tendency to interrupt an attack, would never be tolerated in a woman, and that Clinton's competence and preparedness would seem even more convincing coming from a man. Oh, won't this be fun? Won't this be fun to watch their cute little bubble of echo chamber and their cute little world that they just know how it's supposed to go just pop in their fucking faces. The lessons about gender that emerged in rehearsal turned out to be much less tidy. What was Jonathan Gordon smiling about all the time? And didn't he seem a little stiff, tethered to the rehearsed statements at the podium, while Brenda King, plain-spoken and confident, freely roamed the stage? Which one would audiences find more likable? So, the two sold-out performances of her opponent took place on the night of Saturday, January 28th, just a week after President Trump's inauguration and the ensuing Women's March on Washington. By God, we're going to show everybody how sexist the nation is. The atmosphere among the standing room only crowd, which appeared mostly drawn from academic circles, no fucking shit, because most people already know that individuals matter, not what's in between your legs. But you need a bunch of highbrow intellectual academics to put on this big fucking show to discover what all of us rubes already know. Fuck you guys. Fuck you up the ass. Alexis Solofucker. Alexis, a New York Times reporter who attended the first performance, observed, most of the people there had watched the debates assuming Ms. Clinton couldn't lose. This time, they watched trying to figure out how Mr. Trump could have won. Can you just see it? Just inching closer to the cliff. Just closer and closer. And no idea that they're going to fall. Inside the evening's program were two surveys for each audience member to fill out. One before the show, with questions about their impressions of the real-life Trump-Clinton debates, and another afterward, asking about their reactions to the King-Gordon restaging. Each performance was also followed by a discussion, with Salvatore bringing the microphone around to those eager to comment on what they'd seen. I had never seen an audience be so articulate about something immediately after the performance. Salvatore says in the cathartic, this is psychotherapy to these people. They just are so stuck in their dogmatic religion that when reality came in, they just can't figure it out. For me, watching people watch it was so informative. People across the board were surprised that their expectations about what they were going to experience was completely upended. The rest of us aren't surprised at all. Many were shocked to find they couldn't seem to find in Jonathan Gordon what they had admired in Hillary Clinton, or that Brendan King's clever tactics seemed to shine in moments when they remembered Donald Trump flailing or lashing out. Do you think maybe, just possibly, that these people are the actual sexists? They just hate men. They're all misandrous, so they hate men. And maybe they just, the woman doing what Trump did, they're just naturally going to like a woman. Or maybe Trump just kicked her ass because Hillary was a terrible fucking person, a terrible fucking candidate. For those Clinton voters trying to make sense of the loss, it was by turns bewildering and instructive, raising as many questions about gender performance. Fuck. It couldn't be individual performances. Because if it was a gender performance, then whether she was the actress playing Trump or Hillary being Hillary, if it was sexism or if genders just did a bad job, both the women would have lost. But that's not what happened here. Maybe individuals are different. Fuck me. Raising as many questions about gender performance and the effects of sexism as it answered. And this was just the first phase of the project. Oh God, there's more. Her opponents, creators, envisioned adapting the recording as a classroom teaching tool to explore the complex ways our personal biases influence how we receive it. It's not that complex, guys. Trump had a better message, and it resonated. Hillary was a terrible fucking candidate. She's always been a terrible fucking candidate. She doesn't come across as genuine or real. Theresa May and Margaret Thatcher did quite well. And we've had other candidates in the Senate and the House that have done quite well, that have been women. If they're good at what they do, they're good. Whether or not you like Sarah Palin or not, she kicked ass in her VP speech at the convention. They scared everybody to death. It just turns out she wasn't that good, but she gave a great speech. It had nothing to do with her being a woman. The gender swapping technique, Salvador suggests, could also be used to explore the communication styles of different political figures in charged confrontations. Could you pull this apart and pick it apart any more than you already have? So I'm not going to go into, they talk about, I'll leave a link to the description here. They'll talk about the rehearsal process, how it was challenging. And we'll talk about like the audience members had their beliefs rattled. Oh, my worldview, it's been popped. We heard a lot of, now I understand how this happened, meaning how Trump won the election. People got upset. There was a guy 2 rows in front of me who was literally holding his head in his, literally shaking, I'm sure. Literally holding his head in his hands, and the person with him was rubbing his back. Oh, these poor snowflakes. Oh. The simplicity of Trump's message became easier for people to hear it when it was coming from a woman. That was a theme. So, in other words, maybe if a woman is giving the right message, she would actually do better than Trump, who, quite frankly, is a little abrasive the way he comes across. But Hillary was just so fucking terrible. So again, it's about individual performance, not about gender. I mean, I suppose maybe a woman, but no, because an unpolished woman couldn't give Trump's message. If Hillary had given Trump's message, she might have won because the message would have resonated, but it maybe not. It may not have been close because she was just so fucking terrible. And nobody can seem to understand this. Your candidate was fucking terrible and her message was terrible. One person said, "I'm just so struck by how precise Trump's technique is." That buffoon, that pussy grabber. Another, a musical theater composer actually, said, not another person, a musical theater composer. I guess they're not people. said that Trump created hummable lyrics while Clinton talked a lot, and everything she was true and factual, but there was no hook to it. Now, she was a fucking liar, but we fact check that another day. Another thing was about not liking either candidate. I wouldn't vote for either one. Someone said that Jonathan Gordon, the male Hillary Clinton, was really punchable because of all the smiling. Could you say that about a woman? Don't talk to me about male fucking privilege. I mean, Hillary is punchable, but that's because it's Hillary, not because she's a woman. A lot of people were just very surprised about the way it upended their expectations about what they thought or they would feel. They come in there the most prejudiced fucking people imaginable. What do you think was going to happen? There was someone who described Brenda King, the female Donald Trump, as his Jewish aunt who would take care of him. What is Jews? What? Why they bring in all this nonsense all the time? What Jew, black, woman, male, homosexual, straight? None of this stuff matters in being a good candidate and communicating properly. They can't figure it out. They can't figure it out. Even though he might not like his aunt. Someone else described her as a middle school principal you don't like, but you know is doing good things for you. What did you find the most surprising? I was particularly struck by the post-performance discussions about effeminacy. People felt that the male version of Clinton was feminine, and that was bad. As a gay man who worked really hard, I'll bet you did, especially when I was younger, to erase femininity from my body. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going in a completely different direction with that. For better or for worse, I found myself feeling really upset about hearing those things. Daryl, the actor playing Jonathan Gordon, the male Clinton, and I have talked about this multiple times since the performances. Never once in a rehearsal did we say, play this more feminine. So I think it was mostly the smiling piece. So many women have told me they were taught to smile through things that are uncomfortable. Oh, okay. So the reason why Clinton was doing all this smiling because of misogyny. Because the men, this strong woman, this strong feminist icon, was so cowed by men, and she was smiling through her whole performance because of men and misogyny. This is your strong feminist leader that was going to lead women out of bondage. Fuck me. Fuck me. No, not Clinton. It's really powerful to hear women talk about that. No, it's not. And a learning experience for me. No, it's not. I was surprised by how critical I was seeing Clinton on a man's body. You have no idea how much nobody wants to see Hillary Clinton on a man's body, including the man himself. And also by the fact that Trump's behavior on a woman. Don't say it.
Grab him by the pussy.
Oh, he said it. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble getting through this one. I remember turning to Maria at one point during the rehearsals and saying, I gotta want to have a beer with her. The majority of my extended family voted for Trump. In some ways, I developed empathy for people who voted for him by doing this project, which was not what I was expecting. No, I have always hated these motherfuckers because I know they're all racist, bigots, sexist, misogynists, homophobes. I expected it to make me more angry at them, but instead it gave me an understanding of what they might have heard or experienced when he spoke. So let me show you these two clips. I'm going to show you first the actual debate, and then I'm going to show you the rehearsal that they've put out there. And it's the same lines for the most part. I think they changed the names a little bit. You compare them, and then comment below and tell me what you think of when you see a comparison, a shot-for-shot comparison, what you think of what you saw. And does it cement in your mind that Trump was just fucking kicked her ass like it did for me, which I already knew? Or did you think something else? And leave a comment for me below.
We're going to enforce the trade deals we have, and we're going to hold people accountable. When I was Secretary of State,
we actually increased American exports globally 30%. We increased them to China 50%. So I know how to really work to get new jobs and to get exports that help to create more new jobs.
Well, you haven't done it in 30 years or 26 years.
Well,
any number you
I've
want to
been
do.
a senator,
You haven't
Donald,
done it.
and
You haven't
I
done
have
it.
been a
And excuse
Secretary
me,
of State, and I have
Your
done
husband signed
a lot.
NAFTA, which was one of the worst things that ever happened
Well,
to the
that's your
manufacturing
opinion.
industry.
That is your
You go to
opinion.
New England, you go to Ohio, Pennsylvania, you go anywhere you want, Secretary Clinton, and you will see devastation where manufacturing is down 30, 40, sometimes 50%. NAFTA is the worst trade deal maybe ever signed anywhere, but certainly ever signed in this country. And now you want to approve Trans-Pacific Partnership. You were totally in favor of it. Then you heard what I was saying, how bad it is, and you said, I can't win that debate. But you know that if you did win, you would approve that, and that will be almost as bad as NAFTA. Nothing will ever top NAFTA.
We are going to enforce the trade deals that we have, and we're going to hold people accountable. When I was Secretary of State, we actually increased American exports globally 30%. We increased them to China 50%. So I know how to really work to get new jobs and to get exports that help to create more new jobs.
But you haven't done it in 30 years and 26 years.
Well,
You're
I
gonna
have
never
been
even-
a
you
senator,
haven't done it.
Brenda,
You haven't
and
done
I
it.
have been
And
a
excuse me,
Secretary of State,
your
and
wife
I have
signed
done
NAFTA,
a
which is
lot.
one of the worst trade deals to ever happen to
Well,
the
that is your
manufacturing
opinion.
industry.
That is
you
your
go to
opinion.
England, you go to Ohio, Pennsylvania, you go anywhere you want, Secretary Gordon, and you will see devastation where manufacturers down 30, 40, sometimes 50%. NAFTA is the worst trade deal maybe ever signed anywhere, but certainly ever signed in this country. And now you want to approve Trans-Pacific Partnership. You were totally in favor of it. Then you heard what I was saying, how bad it is, and you said, I can't win that debate. But you know that if you did win, you would approve that, and that would be almost as bad as NAFTA.
Well-
Nothing will ever top NAFTA.
That is just not accurate. I was against it once it was finally negotiated and the terms were laid out. I wrote about that in...
You called it the
I
gold
wrote about-
standard.
Well, I hope...
You called it the gold standard of trade
And
deals. You
you know
said it's
what?
the finest deal you've ever seen.
No.
And then you heard what I said about it, and all of a sudden you were against it.
Well, Donald, I know you live in your own reality, but
Oh, yeah.
that is not the facts. The facts are, I did say I hoped it would be a good deal, but when it was negotiated,
Not.
which I was not responsible for, I concluded it wasn't. I wrote about that.
So is it President
in my
Obama's
book
fault? Is it
before
President Obama's
you
fault?
even announced. Look, there are
Secretary,
different-
is it President Obama's fault?
There are
Because
different-
he's pushing it.
There are different views about what's good for our country, our economy, and our leadership in the world. And I think it's important to look at what we need to do to get the economy going again. That's why I said new jobs with rising incomes, investments, not in more tax cuts that would add $5 trillion to the debt.
But you have no
in
plan.
Oh, I do.
Secretary,
in fact,
you
I
have no
written
plan.
a book about it. It's called Stronger Together. You can pick it up
That's
tomorrow.
about all you-
Folks,
at
we're
the
gonna-
bookstore or at an airport near you.
We're going to move to
That is just not accurate. I was against it once it was finally negotiated and the terms were laid out. I wrote about that.
You called it
in-
the gold standard.
I wrote about. Well,
you
I
called
hope
it the
that.
gold standard of trade.
And you
deal.
know what?
You said it's the finest deal you've ever seen.
No.
Then you heard what I was saying, and all of a sudden you were against it.
Well, I know you live in your own reality, Brenda, but
Yeah.
that is not the facts. The facts are, I did say I hoped it would be a good deal, but when it was negotiated,
Not.
which I was not responsible for, I concluded it wasn't. I wrote about that in my
So is it
book
President Obama's
before
fault?
you even
Is it President
announced-
Obama's fault?
Look, there are different.
Secretary, is it President Obama's
there
fault?
are different-
Because he's pushing it.
There are different views about what's good for our country, our economy, our leadership in the world. That's why we have to look at how we can get the economy going again. That's why I said new jobs with rising incomes, investments, not in more tax cuts that would add $5 trillion to the debt,
But you
in
have no plan.
Oh, I do.
Secretary,
In
you
fact,
have no
I have
plan.
written a book about it. It's called Stronger Together. You can pick it up tomorrow at a bookstore or an airport near